side too. Now, when you have two pieces of evidence which contradict, they both can't be true. So what we as Muslims believe is that science is a source of knowledge, but at best, it's not going to give you concrete, absolute knowledge. Quran is a source of knowledge which we know with certainty is absolute and true. Now, there may be times in which the Quran confirms science, there may be times in which the Quran contradicts what science is saying. As long as we understand that the reality is God's word and God's world, which science tries to discover, in reality we know they can't contradict, because God revealed the Quran, and God also created the world. So the Quran is God's word, but the world is also God's word, because God said be and it is. So we know that that contradiction must be internal. It's not out there in reality. So
something's being misunderstood somewhere.
So there's a really good example, which is a case in point, right?
Okay.
Me and you, we are sitting here, but let's go back 60 years. Just 60 years.
I wasn't here.
Yeah. So imagine
were you here?
Imagine we go back 60 years, 70 years, and we're both sitting down and we're actually doing a radio show instead of this podcast. Now, at this time, the world has the scientific world has a consensus. It has a consensus on the idea that the universe is eternal, meaning the universe has no beginning and no end.
Okay.
And this is what physicists believed.
That was consensus.
That was a consensus.
So
they believed with certainty that the universe is eternal. This was known as the static state theory or model, right? Now, what basically happened is this. That idea completely contradicts the Quran, because that idea says the universe has no beginning, and in the Quran it's clear the universe has a beginning.
Allah is the one
who created the universe, right? So according to that,
the
universe always existed. So that's a much stronger argument against God than evolution was, because the universe has always been here, so there's no need for God. Right? Evolution, even evolutionists would say there was a beginning, right? But with the universe, there's no beginning. So the most direct you can imagine contradiction between the Quran and science is not evolution. It's actually what happened about 70 years ago. Because there's a direct contradiction.
So then what happened?
After a few decades, we discovered that the Big Bang model makes more sense of the data because new data came. And the scientific world then changed its mind that the universe actually has a beginning.
Wow.
Now,
just like that.
Yeah, I mean, it took a long time. I mean, some of the scientists were not happy with it, and it took a long time. Especially what's interesting is the Soviet scientists, the communist scientists, they didn't like it because it was an idea which was giving more air to religious beliefs. So they were the least likely to accept it. Anyway, so there's a contradiction in the Quran, which later on is no longer a contradiction. Now, why did this happen? Because the way science works is this. Me and you are scientists, and we're scientists, and we're trying to work out what is the color of swans. We're like, that swan's white, that swan's white, that swan's white. We've seen 500 swans.
Okay.
So we come up with the theory, all swans are white. In the future, we may discover a black swan. Therefore, our previous theory, all swans are white, goes out the window.
Down the bin.
Yep.
In the bin.
So, in science, you can always have a new observation which can challenge your previous theory.
And that's why science isn't reliable as something individually.
I wouldn't say not reliable. I would say that's why it's beautiful, because it can always change its conclusions.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not something which I as a scientist have made a conclusion and I'm going to stick to it forever.
I think I see where you're going here. Is where you're going, science can always be changed, and it's always changing based on discovery, research, etc., etc., etc. But Islam is not going to change.
Yes, but also something else which I was adding is that by looking at science, we look at it has weight because of these reasons.
Okay.
We look at the Quran and it has weight because of these reasons. So when we come across what looks like a contradiction, either we've misunderstood the Quran or we've misunderstood science, or actually no, those are the two possibilities. Either we misunderstood the Quran or we misunderstood science. So we need to look at it like this. The Quran has weight, and so does scientific conclusions. But the Quran as a book, we know that certain things that it says, it may contradict science today, but maybe perhaps in 100, 200, 500 years time, science will revise its conclusions and that will be more in line with the Quran.